So it is. Good morning again to each of you. I hope that you can hear me. If you can't, let Alan know on the chat line. Today I'm talking about an unusual subject in a sense. It's about the potential that we have with sound. And sound is something that I had never given much thought to, and I'm going to explain to you how I came upon this. It all started in my childhood. I used to love to have stories and hear stories of buried treasure. I think all children like that. I loved those stories. And I got to the point where I would go in my backyard and start digging to see if I couldn't find an artifact. And all I ended up finding was a dead bird one time, so I quit. But I just knew that some way there were probably all kinds of things in my backyard, and my imagination would go wild. And then I was seeing one of my favorite magazines was the Mickey Mouse magazine. I don't know if any of you were in the Mickey Mouse Club. With your little hat, I was full blown. And I think my sister's on here. She knows what I'm talking about. She was full blown too, I'll just say that. And I loved the magazine because it had all kinds of interesting articles. And now I'm trying to find my magazines that I love the most on eBay, but most of those are disappeared. But it had interesting articles about strange places for me as a child. I'm talking 4th and 5th grade. It talked about Egypt and the pyramids, and they would pose the question, who built these? They talked about Peru. And I ended up memorizing these articles. That's how into these articles I was. I didn't want to forget a single thing. So I was really into buried treasure and archaeology too. And I remember going to school, and in the 4th and 5th grade, the teacher went around the classroom and said, what do you want to be when you grow up? And I said, archaeologist, and nobody in the room knew what in the world that was. I don't even know if the teacher knew. She had to ask me, what does that mean? And I said, I love exploring old civilizations and seeing what we can find in the ground. So that was my beginning. Very fascinated with all of that. And I noticed, and I'm still kind of obsessed with this, that I would doodle circles with triangles in them. And I still do that. It just was an obsession. I think doodling kind of is an obsession with people. It kind of lets out feelings. And I think psychologists look at doodling to get insight into your psychology of who you are. But I always drew circles with triangles. The triangle, to me, I guess, was like the pyramid. It just seemed like there was a significance in a circle with a triangle. And so this led me into studies at college. I wanted to know more about the history of religion in South America. It settled into South America for some reason. And I also knew that at some point in time I wanted to travel to South America, so I majored in Latin American area studies and minored in Spanish. So when I got over there, I could talk and understand the natives, not just have an interpreter. And it was an interesting study. It does not prepare you for a very useful career. So if anybody is young enough on here, when you graduate, it doesn't prepare you for a career. They told us we could work in an embassy overseas, but that wasn't what I wanted. But it was very interesting. And I think my parents sent me to college to find someone to marry. That's my honest opinion. And I did find someone there, but I think my dad that was all he wanted. And but I did have a lot of interesting courses, and it was all about the people who were on the continent of South America before the Spaniards came. And they talked about some of the legends and some of the mythologies that were there with these Incas and the Mayas, and we went into the ruins. And I finally focused on a particular country I wanted to visit, which was Peru. And most of you know I did end up going to Peru eventually. And when I got there, it's like you read about it, you see these pictures, but the effect that these huge stones have in these structures is mind-boggling. How these people put these stones into place. And I was always interested in that. But when I went to Machu Picchu, and some of you've been there, and you know what I'm talking about, it's on a mountain and there's a raging river way underneath. So somehow these stones were lifted into place into Machu Picchu. And it's huge stones. And I know we've all seen uh, little clips of this on TV and lots of programs about how in the world did they do that. And it was on my mind that there must have been a big technology that we didn't know about. And our guide told us that they were levitated into place. Now, this guide was not from the United States. This was a native person. And they said in their legends and in their way of thinking and what they knew was these stones were levitated into place. And that got me interested in levitation. You know, how did they levitate these stones, these huge stones? Well, last week I got into a program where they were talking about the power of sound. And that's why I labeled this talk the creative power of sound. And they're starting to do focused research on the power of sound to lift objects. So here we go. I think we're starting to catch up with the old civilizations. And they're just starting to make little handheld devices that use sound to levitate different objects up in the air. And it's not connected to electricity or anything like that. So they use sound, and they said that they expect that to be more and more used in the future. It's a beginning study of how sound can be used to levitate things. So I think we're catching up. So I got curious and I got online. That's me. I like to Google things, and I just assume that what I find online is the truth. Who knows? But you know, you're looking at scientific journals and things like that. And I just started looking at sound, and I found out that sound is being used in medicine, and it's called focused ultrasound. And I didn't know this, but a lot of these therapies are approved for Medicare and for insurance purposes. Somehow missed out on all of that. And what they do, there's certain things that they can do right now that are focused with the ultrasound that will help eliminate and dissolve tumors for cancer. It helps with Parkinson's disease. They can go into the brain without cutting open anything. They can go into tissues without having to do incisions. And what they do is use MRIs to locate what they need to remove or to fix. And then they use a laser to go to the spot, and then they focus these ultrasound energies, and all of a sudden it's dissolved. Like almost magic to me. And there's no incisions, no cutting, no nothing. And they're using it for pain control too, which was surprising because I got into one article where they're even selling these ultrasound machines for pain, and they're not very expensive. And I didn't know you could even buy those kind of things. So that's one area that they've experimented in. And then there's a whole new area of archaeology, and I try to keep up with archaeology, and they're measuring the acoustics in these ancient sites. And these ancient sites were built not only for looks and for whatever purpose they had, but they were very acoustically oriented. They had an interesting article about a man that had gone to Stonehenge, and they had noise interference, which means that the stones were placed in certain ways where there's 4 certain areas that are total quiet. You know, and that's amazing. And that's just Google that if you want to find it. It's interesting. And they'll go into these ancient sites and hold up microphones to see how many hertz of energy are in these little labyrinth drawings and things like that. And they're always 110 hertz. And they started measuring all over the world, and it was 110 hertz. And so some of these people who are very creative decided that maybe that was good for people. So they started doing research on the brain. You know, some of these brain laboratories where you put on a hat and they do research. Well, they would do different frequencies on different people and then ask them what one felt the best. And it was always the 110 hertz. So the 110 hertz is good energy. And they've discovered that it accelerates the right brain, which is creative, and it helps all of the thinking, you relax, you're at peace. And so they also discovered that in some of these ancient cultures, they were looking at the sounds that people use when they meditate and pray. The Buddhists and Hindus have the best sound for their chants. So these chants are in the 110 hertz. And Om is the best sound of all for your body. Now your body is 60% water. I looked it up, and I'm believing that's what they said in Google. 60% water, and it vibrates to sound. So it's really important and interesting to me that you could use the sound of Om in your body, and it will vibrate and be very beneficial for not only your body, but your mind. And it will accelerate that right brain. So it started me thinking about all the benefits of sound that we have and all the research that they've done on sound that we can use in our life. Sound is something we take for granted in a sense. We know music affects us, it affects plants, and there's all these studies that plants that hear rock and rap music don't do well. So if plants don't do well, what does that mean for us? And there are certain sounds that are beneficial for the body. When I had the bookstore, I would sell tapes that were meant to enhance sound for an expectant mother. It would get into the baby, you know. And when I had a baby, I would play Bach music because I had heard. I didn't really like Bach music. I'm not a classical person on music, but I heard that it was better for the baby. And, you know, I think it does work. But, you know, you have to find the music that resonates with you. But your body is really at the best when you're doing chants and you're doing Om. And I know back when we were meeting in the sanctuary, which I'm hoping that we can get there. If everybody can get over their fear and that virus goes away enough that we can feel safe doing it, that Judy Crotty was doing crystal bowls. And that's based on this sound too, that the vibrations really get into your being and are very healing and ancient in their technique. And I know when we were on women's retreats, we would have balloons, and she has them in her classes. You can really feel the sound vibrating that balloon, and you know it's vibrating your body too. So there's all kinds of things out there, and they're developing meditation tapes now where it accelerates the different energies on both sides of the brain. And so the sounds are really helping you brain-wise. And so meditation, the neuroscientists have really discovered through experiments that meditation, I'm going to read this, lowers your blood pressure. I know that. I think I said this a few weeks ago. My mother thought I cheated every time I went into the doctor's office because I would take a deep breath before they would take my blood pressure, and I'd say, just wait a minute, I want to get calm, and I would have good blood pressure. And she said, but you don't know really what your blood pressure is. She thought that was cheating. She wouldn't know what it would be like if I didn't take a deep breath. And that's what my late husband would do too. He would take deep meditation breaths, and he always had good blood pressure. So they have learned that it lowers your blood pressure. So the more you begin to meditate, the lower your blood pressure is. And it makes sense because a lot of the blood pressure is due to your anxieties, your worries, your fears, all the things that go on in your life that you really are upset about. And also it causes less stress in your life. You're able to respond well without having to get too angry. It helps your immune system. It helps reduce chronic pain. And it also alleviates depression and addictions. And there's a lot of ways you can really relax with all this. I mean, I think it's important to vary your meditation just from my own experience. There's a place to be in a place where there's absolute silence. I think that's why Stonehenge had all these little areas of no noise so people could get in tune with who they are. So you don't get distracted by music or whatever. But then there's a place for music. There's a place for group chanting. There's a place for crystal blows. There's a place for anything that's new coming out to help you with your meditation experience. And they're coming out with new stuff all the time. And then pay attention when we're talking about sound to your own voice and what it does to your body. It vibrates your body. I mean, everything that you say is going to affect your body. It vibrates. The voice vibrates in your body. So think what it does when you get angry. That's not a good way for your body to be. Angry damages your body. Anger damages your body. So think about that. It's important to stay centered, and it's important to stay as stress-free as you can. And it's possible, even if you're in a stressful situation, the more you meditate, the more you begin to learn not to respond to stress as much. That's a very useful thing to develop. And so no matter how stressful things seem to be, you can relax, take a deep breath in, do whatever you can. Meditation every day helps reduce the stress and anxiety of life. And boy, do we need that today, right? More than ever, we need that today. I see people getting stressed by all kinds of things. And love heals. You know, they've done a lot of experiments on different things. If you love and bless a plant, it's going to thrive and grow. If you love and bless an animal, it's going to respond to you in loving ways. So it makes sense that if you love and bless yourself, you're going to thrive and grow. If you love and bless others, they're going to thrive and grow. They're going to love to be around you. So remember that anger damages you and love heals different situations in your life. And so that's part of the effect of sound. Sound is so important in our lives. So learn to see what's going on around you. There's all kinds of things going on in the sound therapy. You might want to consider that for any kind of medical thing. I didn't know that was going on, but particularly use sound in your own life in a positive way. Say affirmations that are affirming and positive, and say that for other people, and have faith in the idea that things are going to work out well, especially nowadays. Don't give in to anxiety. I said I would say this every week, but it helps to turn off the news. You don't have to watch it all the time or give in to panic and anxiety that you may see on the news. If you want peace, you can just let go. And it's important for you personally to have that peace that passes understanding, as the Bible says. So let's just take a moment to absorb all that. So close your eyes and allow yourself to feel that peace. Breathe it in. And just remember that you are a spiritual being. And as a spiritual being, you can rest and relax knowing that all is well. And you can love yourself by saying the coming things for yourself. And you can love others. And for this, we're grateful. Okay, we're going to have special music.
There it is. This is a song that I've been writing for the last, it does have a few lines in it that kind of go with what you would like. You can get through the world one day at a time. Just stay in your truth. Don't live in your mind. The things that you see are not here to stay. The things that you hear just get in your way. That mountain's too deep. I'm sorry. That water's too deep. That mountain's too high. This path is too steep. And the river's too wide. You need to move. You can't stay here. You hold yourself back when you listen to fear. You can change your life one thought at a time. Just open your heart and let go of your mind. Your spirit will hear the truth as it flows. Your heart will believe what wisdom knows. That water's not deep, that mountain's not high. The path isn't steep, and the river's not wide. Learn to move, you won't stay here. You're making your way in the wisdom you hear. Just open your heart, let go of your mind. You create your world one thought at a time.